Well, at least they didn't call the big AI in the season finale Kathleen Kennedy or anything like the Feige AI at the end of She-Hulk. Hello, interwebs! I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my review of the season, potentially series, finale of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, this episode titled The Real Good Guys. And I have to say, this was an absolutely fantastic finale to what has been a really freaking solid Star Wars show. I'll talk about my overall views on the series as well as where Star Wars is at the end of this review, but just focusing in on this episode, this was just the climax of the entire story. A lot of action, a lot of paying off, a lot of setup that we had gotten earlier, especially with the relationships between the kids and their parents. And also we have Jod just being a really kick-ass villain. Every time that I kind of thought this movie, it's basically a Goonies movie just stretched out into 8 episodes. But every time I thought it was going to take kind of a more stereotypical route that I thought this was going to go, like make Jod a good guy or have a heartwarming moment at the end or a turn of character, they never go that direction. And I like that in this finale, Jod is just, like I said last week, just the bad guy. And he is properly menacing the entire way through, and yet what I like about it is they give him dimension. There's that one moment where we were watching KB falling out of the sky and it looks like she died, and you can also tell that while our main characters are really upset by her death, Jod is also kind of bothered by it too. Like he's not so much to be like he doesn't want to keep doing what he's doing, but he is sort of like, I didn't want a child to die, and you can also see how he's wrapped it up in his ideology of like, I want people to continue the great work. Like I even liked how he saw, what do you call it? The great work, beautiful. I like that idea of like he just wants people to be subjugated to him. He's an authoritarian to a degree, even though he's a pirate. And I like that it's comparing his mentality of like liking the great work, liking people being all in their little spots and working for him, directly to what the AI, the supervisor, was doing. Like, yes, he destroyed the supervisor, but ultimately the point I think the show is subtly making is sort of drawing a parallel between these two things of how this society that they're running is all controlled by a droid and sort of getting them into their little spots, and they never really can break out of that. And I really liked that subtlety of it. The big AI reveal of the supervisor being AI was another thing that I didn't call. If you've been watching me throughout these reviews, I have been predicting that the supervisor was actually going to be a surprise reveal to be, I forget his name, but the pirate who had the original ship. But I guess, like, I actually liked that the show didn't tie that off in a narrative bow. Like, I thought there was going to be a reveal that the pirate whose ship they took at the beginning of the series and that they've been using throughout the show was going to tie back into the narrative somehow, or his first mate, because I know the story said that his first mate killed him. One of the two, but it didn't, and it just lets it be a mystery off to the side. And I've been predicting that because I've been so inundated with like this era of franchise storytelling where everything needs to tie in and all that jazz. And I just like that some things are just like, yeah, there was a pirate in the past and he has like a history and there's a legend to it, and it doesn't necessarily need to have a direct bearing on the present other than like, ooh, he found his pirate ship essentially. So I actually really like that reveal. But people last week noticed that the supervisor was voiced by Stephen Fry. And there's generally a lot of goodwill towards Stephen Fry. I actually really like Stephen Fry for a good amount of time. Unfortunately, recently, within the past few months, he recently called supporting trans rights, especially the LGBTQ organization in the UK, Stonewall, as nonsensical. Which is particularly disappointing. I mean, not particularly shocking given his continual friendship with J.K. Rowling, but at least in the past he had been somewhat willing to say, like, I'm not going to break off ties with her, but her words have hurt trans people, my friends. So, like, he's still kind of shitty and still being friends with this person who's actively advocating for harm against trans people. But at least he wasn't spouting it himself. Now he seems to be turning that corner, unfortunately. So, yeah, I couldn't really exactly be enthused that Stephen Fry was here, which sucks, because I generally like Stephen Fry, and I know me telling you that is going to maybe surprise a couple of you out there who maybe hadn't heard that, so I am sorry. But whatever, I'm willing to let it go. It's not necessarily the show's fault. But that being said, I did like the reveal of it being a droid. Like, I thought that worked really well and kind of goes, again, to the critique of the show and how, like, their lives, there's this very suburban-esque planned living is, like, the same idea that not only this authoritarian Jod is extolling, but, like, this AI, this sort of very controlling, like, we all get in our nice, neat rows sort of mindset. And it kind of showcases how AI is just reflecting the biases and reflecting the status quo of those who create it. Like, a lot of the AI AI that we get spouts out a lot of bigotry and a lot of the biases of the people who create it, usually the cisgender straight white dudes with a lot of money, like your Mark Zuckerbergs and bullshit like that. So like it's a nice reflection of that idea. If anything, I wish the show had been a little, like, I didn't need it to like beat me over the head with it, but I think what I was missing in this episode, before I get into some of the nitty-gritty of the action, was the ending kind of wrapped up a little bit too quickly. Like, they save the day, and I do like the last moment where Wim, they get out from under the ship, and they're like, oh, you get out from under the ship, we don't want to be crushed by it in the last moment. So I liked that bit. And I liked Wim getting to look up and seeing the New Republic as the heroes of the day. It kind of reflects, like, that era of Star Wars where a lot of, like, Star Wars fans were like, oh, the New Republic is this big, or the Republic is, like, this thing I'm excited about, I want to see it, and it reminds me of like back like in like, you know, before the prequels even, where like the X-Wings were like these symbols of like exciting things for kids. The prequels sort of, in my era, the prequels are slightly different because our heroes were like the Jedi, and that's a bit more problematic in a lot of ways. So anyways, I thought that ending was good, but it kind of skipped. It kind of felt like it needed a little bit more at the end. Just not like a whole bunch, but I wanted that like 5 minutes at the end of the episode where we get to see the characters where they are now. Like, what Atten becomes now the supervisor's dead and Jod is captured. Like, do they go back to this perfect planned society? Or has the kid's ideology of, like, being willing to sort of, like, change things a little bit and be a little bit more chaotic and break things out start to affect the status quo in a little ways? Like, just something subtle like that to show that the world has changed because of the kids' things. A little bit Hero's Journey-esque in a way that I'm not usually a big fan of, but I think there was potential there to, like, say a little bit more oh, society has changed a little bit, based on just like the confrontation to the both the droid and Jod. So I you know, again, leans a little into the hero's journey aspect, but I would have felt like it needed a little bit of that. So I do feel like the episode just wrapped out very quickly there and didn't allow it to fully wrestle with all of its ideas. But on a couple of things, I mean, a lot of the other stuff in this episode was just paying off action beats. Like, I love all the stuff with the parents that we get, especially Wim's parents and Fern's mom. Wim's dad and Fern's mom, where Wim's dad is finally like enabling Wim to like be excited and like like save the day and allowing him to be the weird kid. So like when they jump over the canyon, the dad comes with him and the dad helps them save everything at the supervisor's tower. I really enjoyed that. Like the dad just showing respect for Wim. And then Fern's mom originally sort of being like, we can't do this, Fern, we can't stop it, like that, and then eventually was the one who shut down the barrier. Again, showcasing her change as well. So we get little hints of that. I just would have liked a little notice of it at the end. I also loved the reveal that Jod's Jedi powers, like he was never actually a Jedi himself. He was just raised by Jedi briefly, who was on the run after Order 66. I think that's cool. That's kind of a different take on it. Like usually I would have thought, like, I think my pitch was like he was a former Jedi who had been put in the Inquisitors to like give it a little bit of a different flavor than just Jedi on the run from Order 66. But that also, like this, it also gives him a little bit of a different flavor than just Jedi on the run after Order 66. And I like his ideology is like, I will fight to defend my little corner of the pinpricks of light, which I thought was effectively like a good differentiation for him and getting at his ideology a little bit. So yeah, all of that was good. All the action beats, like I like that the kids all get something to do. You know, like Neil gets something, Wim gets something, Fern gets something, those two get the most, and Neil and KB get like little pieces, but they're not the main focus, which I think is fine given that they were sort of the side characters for the most part of the four. But yeah, every kid gets to contribute, they get a moment to shine as their characters to show off their talents and their specific personalities. Neil getting to show that he knows how to operate a gun from that one episode earlier on in the season. Just again, nice setup, effective payoff for where we've seen these characters gone, and KB getting to like save the ship and knowing how to fix things after we saw in that episode where she sort of was worried about not being able to fix herself. Like I like all of those effective beats. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, there's small funny things like I like the microwave, the Star Warsian microwave, and the home cooked meal line was a good joke. Yeah, I think, like I said, this is just a strong finale, and I think to kind of pull out and look at the series as a whole, I don't think this series is anything super revelatory. It was just a Goonies movie set in Star Wars. And for what it was doing, it did it really, really effectively. And also, I should say, I love all the bits. One thing Fern said, sorry, backtrack. Fern also said, wherever we went, it was dangerous, but there were good people there. And I like thinking back, like every episode, yeah, they did meet someone nice, whether it was the owl lady whose name's I'm blanking on right now, who comes back this episode, or like the friend who helped them in the spa. Like there was always good people where they went. And I like that was just a subtle thing throughout and just came back up here as a nice affirmation. Loved that. But anyways, pulling back out from the series, it was just very effective. Like they clearly, it really felt like they had planned all this out from A to B. And it wasn't just like a show that they were planning as they were going along. They had a full arc, and they told it, and they sold it well. And it felt like it was like just set up, payoff, set up, payoff, set up, payoff. And it felt like it was effectively paced for the most part. There was a couple basing issues here and there, especially towards the beginning and the middle. But it felt like it fit the 8 episodes, which has been a big problem, especially with Disney Plus style shows, both Marvel and Star Wars. But they feel like they're just overly long, like they should have been a movie, or had a few less episodes, or needed more episodes to flesh out. That's been the problem with Disney Plus things in particular. And so, like here, like no, the pacing was really solid. The story felt good. It felt effectively communicated. And it felt like it all paid itself off and was really well done. And I think that goes back to the fact that it is a reliable structure. Like this isn't breaking the mold of anything. And so in that case, I'm sort of like, I really like the show. I thought it was very good. I enjoyed a lot of it. But there's also a part of me, and I know this is going to get some flack, who appreciates things like Star Wars The Acolyte a little bit more. Not because I think they're better in terms of like the just like bit by bit storytelling, but because I kind of appreciate things pushing the boundaries and trying something new and trying to center new perspectives like Star Wars The Acolyte was. Whereas this is just kind of telling the same story I've seen in a Star Wars mold and doing it very effectively, and I really enjoyed it. But not exactly making me sort of like think a little bit more beyond that. And so I sort of sit here looking at that and seeing like the backlash at The Acolyte and the praise that Star Wars Skeleton Crew has been getting, and sort of wondering like, oh, so is this the direction where Star Wars is kind of headed? But I don't even know without that, because there was a recent thing that came out a few days ago that apparently Skeleton Crew is getting even less ratings than The Acolyte, which may be part because of the backlash towards The Acolyte, and this is just offshooting of it, like the same thing that happened between The Last Jedi and Solo, to a degree, that there was like such a backlash to The Last Jedi that Solo kind of tanked as well as Solo kind of coming very quickly after The Last Jedi. But I wonder if it's going to be a similar situation. So I'm kind of curious to see where they're gonna head with Star Wars. I mean, the next thing we have really is Andor, which I'm super fucking pumped about. I don't know if you haven't seen him back there, but I got my I burned the sunrise for a day I'll never see guy back here, my dude. So I'm very excited for Andor, like super pumped about that show, like very excited. But then after that we have like Ahsoka, and then a bunch of movies in various stages of production, and I guess Star Wars Vision. So I'm not entirely sure where they're gonna go after Acolyte and this, because they both have very different reactions, but the ratings are weird. So I don't exactly know what the analysis is. I mean, what I would prefer is to start, again, seeing more risk-taking narratives, trying something new, not just regurgitating nostalgia. But I wonder if the lesson from Skeleton Crew will just be regurgitate nostalgia from other franchises, not just Star Wars, which I think would be the wrong lesson to learn. But it would be a lesson to learn, and probably the one the the executives will take away from it. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Excited for Andor. Less so about other stuff coming up. We'll sort of see, but Andor is on the horizon, but that's only one season, and from there, I'm unsure. So, yeah, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I'm curious your thoughts all on it. Like I said, I think this is a really effective show. I really enjoyed it. I'm not, like, knocking it. I'm just sort of more pontificating philosophically about it in the long run. But on taking it on its own terms, I really like this. I would enjoy this. If I had kids, which I don't, they'll hope to one day maybe, this is something I'd be like, I would be glad to show them this and hope they enjoyed it and would have a good time together with them. So, yeah, I think this was great. What did you think, though? I'd love to hear all your thoughts in the comments below. Beyond all of that, thank you for watching. Also, everybody, what do you think of the new set? I finally have it basically finished. Probably little tweaks here and there, but yeah, I'll duck down. Let me know what you think. That's kind of the look that I'm going for. I'll probably do a video showcasing it off at some point and getting into some of the other stuff that's off screen and everything. But yeah. All right, everybody. Love y'all. Take care. Live long and prosper. And I'll see you for Severance, because I'll be reviewing Severance in the next few days.